Are you having problems in the bedroom? Are you having problems with your sex life? Well, I know just who to talk to, and that's Lori. CoachingByLori.com is where you could set up voice, video, or text sessions to talk about sex, to talk about intimacy, kinks, fetishes, taboos, fantasies, or your sexuality. You could talk about coming out and what to expect when you come out. Lori is a sex therapist and talks about your sexual health. Lori's offering all new clients 20% off their first session with the coupon code WELCOME. That's coaching by Lori, LORIE.com. Coupon code WELCOME, WELCOME, for 20% off your first session. Ladies and gentlemen, Suds Social Media is an official affiliate of the WWE Shop. Whether you want merchandise from the original Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, or the Hall of Famers, the New World Order, or from WrestleMania itself, scan the QR code on the screen or go to suds-media.com/wrestling merch, and it gives us a commission to help our show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Dockside at the Bay. My name is Vinnie. This is Kim.
Hi, everybody.
As always, I do want, we did miss last week's episode, but, sometimes illnesses happen.
Unfortunately, sinus infections, they don't tend to spare me. So,
Trust me, I get it. It's happened to me as well. So, we missed last week, but it's okay because we're back this week. We are going to go over to season 5, episode 1 of The Bay, which can be found, of course, on Peacock, on Tubi TV, on a whole host of places. Popstar, which also runs the daily, I believe, 4 p.m. Eastern, the showing. That's probably the most current because they do have season 8 up for on demand, but they're actually showing season 9 now on the main feed. So, hopefully season 9 will be released on demand soon. But we're on season 5, and we're going into episode 1. And before we get there, I do want to let everybody know that we are an official affiliate of the WWE Shop, which is a Fanatics experience. So if you do want to get any kind of WWE merchandise, whether it's from the NWO or, Paul Heyman or any of the current crop of stars, legends, NXT, alumni, Hall of Famers, and so on and so forth, go to suds-media.com/wrestling merch, and that has our affiliate URL link in the code. And whatever you buy using that link, we do get commission for, and that commission goes to help the network. Also, Angela and I, from Angela, who is my co-host on Suds News, she and I are going to meet Laura Wright in April. Laura Wright, Finola Hughes, and now James Patrick Stewart in April. We are presenting Laura Wright with a Lifetime Achievement Championship belt. And I have the picture. I'm going to show it on next week's episodes.
I will say, as someone who got an advanced preview of the picture, it's very cool. So,
yes. So I will show it on next week's shows. If you want to donate and help the cause, go to buymeacoffee.com/Suds Media, and you can go ahead and donate to help offset the cost. And if you do donate, you'll go ahead, your name will go in the card that we give to her that night as well. So she'll see a list of people who are, super fans of hers and help to give her this Lifetime Achievement Championship. So again, that's buymeacoffee.com/Suds Media. On Friday, February 21st, I will be doing my first paid Zoom event for anybody that wants to join. The QR codes are up on the Suds Media Twitter, my personal Facebook, Vinnie Suds, and my personal Twitter, at Vinnie Suds. If you donate just $5, you could join the Zoom, and we're going to be talking about the differences and similarities between pro wrestling and soap operas. So that's going to be Friday, February 21st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. My first ever paid Zoom event, and the proceeds from that will go to help offset the cost for just trying to keep the network afloat, whether it's our Zoom costs, the The cost for the streaming services that I have to watch what we watch, the internet, and just overall, even the website itself. So there are costs that are associated with trying to run a network, and this will help offset those costs. So again, that's only $5, um, and that'll be Friday, February 21st at 8 p.m. Let's see, anything else to go over? Um,
Hmm.
Also, one other thing I do want to mention, we do have a new advertiser that you probably see on any time that you watch one of our previously recorded stuff on YouTube or on Spotify or um, listen to it on Apple Podcasts. That is Coaching by Lori. She is a sex and relationship coach. So if you go to Coaching by Lori, LORIE.com, and use the promo code WELCOME, you get 20% off your first session. Again, that's Coaching by Lori, LORIE.com. And the promo code is welcome, and you get 20% off your first session. Um, okay, I believe that's it, if I'm not mistaken. Anything else that we really need to go over? Oh, yeah. By the way, if you want to get this show early and ad free, go over to our Patreon, patreon.com. So it's Suds and Squared Circle. And you can sign up. It's $5 a month, and you'll get all of our pre recorded content, whether it's Dockside at the Bay, taking me down to Studio City, or Angela Answers Fan Mail. All that will be yours early and ad free on our Patreon page. If you wait for the RSS feed of the YouTube, you do get ads, and also it comes out later. So if you want early access, go to our Patreon. All right. So with all of that out of the way, how did you feel about season 5, episode 1 of the Emmy Award-winning The Bay?
Well, quite a kickoff for season 5, I thought. I remember this stretch pretty well just because it's very, it picks up right where, we leave off, at the end of season 4. But, we do have it where, it's just kind of, the Sara arc is still in full swing, obviously. She's still kind of, dealing with Steve in full on villain mode.
Yep.
And, in this, she is just, we're back to that point where it's just like, okay, how creepy can you get? How
Yes.
weird can it get? But we do get, and I appreciate in this episode, kind of, they really, obviously they touch on Sarah and Steve's relationship, in the flashback sequences. We know, like, he blackmailed her and has all this information. But this episode does kind of clue into their past in such a way that I had forgotten that detail, that, she was kind of raised and brought up with, by his mother, and as a result, they kind of grew up together. I'd forgotten that detail, honestly, and like,
Mm-hmm.
flushing out as weird as, digging a little into that backstory, and just kind of
Yeah.
exploring that, especially in the wake of Tobin just kind of disappearing.
Yeah. Seriously,
It's like we get Tobin disappearing, but we get insight into a little bit of why Steve has such a vengeance against Sarah. And I did appreciate like that. I'd forgotten that little component, but they do touch on, like, their history in a different sort of way and highlight some of it. And yeah, that was just one piece of it, though. The episode in general, jam packed as always, and had a
Mhm.
lot going on and a lot of details to pay attention to. But
Yeah.
yeah, that just, I don't know, that was something that just kind of struck me.
I All right, so I mean, kind of bringing it down, it was a very Sarah centered episode, considering the title of it was The Search for Sarah.
Yes.
Because they show how Pete and Lex go to the cabin, and it's like the way it was shot. I mean, seriously, it's like on one minute you see Sarah getting to the cabin. She's out of it. She looks like she hasn't eaten, she hasn't slept, she hasn't drank, she's dehydrated.
Yeah.
She's just out of it, trying to find it. She opens the fridge, whatever the hell was in the fridge made her sick or whatever. And
Yeah,
it
just
and by the way they
not in a
shot
good
it,
place.
it felt like she was still in the cottage or cabin or whatever by the time Lex and Pete get there, but she's
Right?
gone.
Yep. She just kind of, the fridge made her just peace out, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not going to stay here. This is gross."
Yeah,
And but you see it, and it's just like near misses, series of near
yeah,
misses, because they are like right there, and then there's that one shot where they're driving off, and you see her clear as day in the background, just like totally out of it, not realizing, like right by that tree, and it's just like it's so frustrating. It's like, no, she's right there. Just like
By the
wait 2 more seconds before you drive away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, come on, when you're going off roading in a Mercedes,
Right.
I think that was a Mercedes, but yeah, either Mercedes or BMW, whatever it was, whatever
Either
that
way,
logo is,
yeah,
way
fancy
above my
little.
price range. And by the way, folks, if you do hear it in the background, I do apologize. My cat gets upset when the dog gets taken out because she feels lonely, so
Oh,
she'll cry and meow. And while it sounds cute when it's at 4 o'clock 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to sleep and you're taking the dog out, it's not so cute.
no,
Um,
no.
but yeah, so if you hear meowing, that's why she's upset because the dog got taken out. Um, but moving on. Yeah, I mean, it was there were a lot of near misses because as they're driving away, she's coming over the clearing. So did she get to the cabin after them? Because the way it was shot, like she was coming to the cabin as
I
they
kind
were
of thought
I
the
don't
reverse. If anything, I
I
thought
thought
that
so
like
too.
she was there, she scoped it out, she smelled the fridge, she thought it was gross, and then she just kind of they don't show her leaving, but they do show her outside. So obviously, at some point she left, and at some point they like came in maybe through like the opposite entrance. She went out the back door, they came in through the front.
Yeah,
It was a little murky, that whole kind of the way that it was filmed. But at the end of the day, they were right on top of each other and they didn't see each other because of course we
and
need to have that element of suspense. We can't just
oh
have
yeah,
them
no, of
find her
course.
way too
But
soon
it's
for that.
also like when Lex went into the woods and yelling Sarah, Sarah. If she was so close, how did she not hear him?
Right.
It's like
And then at
there's
one point too, even you see like, well, because I watch with I don't know if you watch with subtitles, but I do.
I don't know.
And at one point, it showed Sarah yelling like "help" while they're showing Lex like running around. So it's like obviously like she could be heard. Like
Yeah,
he didn't hear her. He was too busy. It's just but they wanted to create that chaos of just like
of
like
course.
that frustration because Sarah can't have nice things as our and then the poor thing, is just like, she's like collapsed under a tree. And we find out too that like, obviously it wasn't just that obviously she's like dehydrated and traumatized and all of this,
Yeah,
but I feel like they did drug her as well because the way
it
she's
had to
like
be.
yeah, like she's completely, she said at one point she's thirsty and then she just collapses at the base of the tree, can't see very well. And then we just have, standard goon come up and,
Yeah,
just go and freaking abduct her.
yeah.
And,
One of
just,
Steve's guys who's on the phone with him in the car, like looking for her, and he just by the happy accident, she passed out under a tree right by the road. So it's like
yeah,
of all people to see her like that, it's a bad guy.
it's like, I don't know, MBE playing, the heroines. It's like, she, if you tally up every single kidnapping slash, sort of that she's had to act out over the years
Hmm.
between playing Kayla and playing that. It's like, my goodness. I did appreciate though, and I'm gonna keep saying this. I appreciate the fact that she was able to swear.
Oh yeah,
It's
of course,
like
because it needs it.
it does. Yeah, it's like I wish again that days would just kind of. It's like, come on, we're on streaming. Let Kayla, swear when she gets frustrated because
Well,
honestly, it's just like
you're right. You're 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 absolutely right because I feel like, especially because Days is on streaming now, it's like when the dialogue calls for it for whatever
right, right. It doesn't have
situation,
to be all the time, but
right?
like the occasional f bomb from like
But
even Steve, not Steve
trust me,
this show, but
Peacock. Don't get me wrong. I watch a lot of Peacock, and honestly, the only reason why I got Peacock is because of WWE moving over there back in 2019
yeah,
and
yeah,
or 2020, whenever it was. But I, you know, they're very for a streamer. They're very sensitive and very censoring because even with the WWE stuff, they've gone back and cut parts out
hmm,
of historic events that
interesting.
could have been seen as you know too sensitive or whatever, and
Hmm.
sensitive viewing, which I'm sorry, I hate that. I hate censorship, and I'm sorry, don't screw with history. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but and
Product of
that's
its
coming
time and all of that.
right. It's like put up a thing at the beginning saying, this stuff was filmed before cultural sensitivity, so viewer discretion is advised, whatever. And then they also, anytime there's somebody bleeding, they turn it black and white. Like
Oof.
blood offends people. Give me a break. Um,
Well, I will say, sometimes even the very convincing special effects, when it comes to blood and guts, I can get a little squeamish if it's too realistic, but that's just me.
but yeah, so Peacock does censor a lot. So, and because Days is an NBC property, they
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just funny, it's like, because that's how you like. I would absolutely be like screaming my head off and swearing if some dude was trying, throwing me into
yeah,
in that situation. And it's just funny because it's just like, again,
yeah, in
playing
certain
the soap opera
situations
heroine. It's
it calls for
bound
it.
to happen at some point. But my goodness, just
and
all the
and
abductions.
and we've talked about it on Suds News before, maybe even on this show, because the prototype for this was when One Life to Live and All My Children were bought by Prospect Park,
Hmm.
and done on Hulu and the online network. They were way before their time. If they came back now, it would be a hit.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely,
but those
absolutely.
two reboots, they did go a little bit overboard with the swearing just because they could.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and then
don't
it
get me
becomes a
wrong, I
little
had no problem
gratuitous.
with it, but
Yeah,
a lot of their core audience, that were used to the simple formula of soap operas,
were
they
kind of
complained.
thrown, and it was
Yeah,
it was, it was jarring. Yeah, but the Bay doesn't have that problem, so it was nice
no.
to just kind of see her being able to, at least, because they do call her like feisty, and they
Hmm.
like the one, and I will say, even the goon that threw her in the back of the van when they're in the parking lot, and
Yeah,
like they're trying to get her, he does like say at one point like, oh, hey pretty lady, or something like that. It's like, well, at least he's being complimentary while he's also abducting her, and
of course.
dropping her off at, like, some sketchy hotel room with, a psycho. But hey, yeah, lots
Oh,
of drama. Poor Sarah.
much.
Poor Sarah. And then we also had two, though. I mean, if just to kind of finish up, I mean, because she gets dropped off at this, abducted, thrown in the van from the woods, then dropped off at this hotel, which they kept on like kind of highlighting a lot. I wonder if that was like a sponsor or something, because they mentioned the name
Yeah,
of the hotel chain. They show it a few times. I mean,
could
it
be.
looked halfway decent. It wasn't like, a flea bag, but um we did have the, Steve kind of confronting, when Sarah gets dropped off at the room and all of this. And yeah, his plan sounds, even when the guard is, or the goon is describing it to Steve, like saying exactly what they had to do and what the plan is, it sounds well thought out, for
Yes.
Steve, considering, it's like, oh, you actually did have a plan in place for all of this. But, this is like his life goal, is to, like, make get all of her fortune by whatever means necessary, and this is how he's going to do it. But it
Yep.
just it felt, when he was discussing it with this guy, and what was that one line? When he's just the banter back, like, it's, Steve full on villain jerk mode or whatever. But I did
Oh yeah.
appreciate some of the dialogue, like, have I told you how much I love you? Yes, an uncomfortable number of times.
Yep.
Like him and the goon, I'd kind of watch like more of their exchange, because they were actually, that was kind of funny. But it's like he's got this whole thing, like, alpha plan, and we're gonna whisk her off on like a honeymoon and all of this stuff. And even the
He's
one guy,
delusional.
he is delusional. And then the one guy even picks up like a negligee black nightgown thing, and,
Yeah.
oh yeah, my guys went shopping, but this isn't my taste. It's like he looks so like just scattered and sociopathic. This isn't my taste. Here, you take it. Like, he just
Yeah.
can't, even with the nightgown, he gets all like spirally and weird. But
Well, yeah, because it's like you can see the systematic descent of the character from
yeah.
season to season, because like we've seen all the way building up. We've known he's been a scoundrel ever since the beginning, when
Right.
he blew up Lee Nelson and the cottage and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And just throughout the time, like he got, and during the time jump between Bay the Beginning and the Bay,
Yeah.
the 3 years kind of mellowed down a little bit. He was more interested in peddling drugs and prostitution and running the nightclub. So he was
Mhm.
kind of a low key dirtbag. Um,
Right.
but then over time, then we start to learn more that, he raped Sarah and he blackmailed her into marrying him, and
Yep.
just all this stuff as we move forward. She's trying to get away from him when she goes to prison, and he tries to get the divorce, and they block it basically,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, um, because she's found not guilty, and just he tries to insert himself into the Garrett family business, interests, and the, trying to get some kind of trust fund and the money, and
Yeah.
pretty soon he's broke, and it's all desperation. And then he's trying to sell off the foreign properties to this guy,
Yep.
so just all this stuff, like now he's in desperation mode.
For sure. Desperation mode, but I appreciated, like I said earlier, that we at least get that little detail when they're talking, and Sarah's like, that her one line, stop with the fucking blondie shit. I loved that
Yeah,
when she's just like, he's trying to be all just, casual and funny and charming, and she's like, you locked me in a cabin like an animal, like, like, screw you, fuck you. I only married you because you blackmailed me. I mean, she is, she's going off on him, and then he
yeah,
counters that with all like, well, you shot your grandfather and you left him to die, and mentions the accident. She says it was an accident, but then we get the, yeah, and my mother, was that an accident? And his whole like countenance changes, and we
yeah,
just like see like that little, took you in, she raised you, like, she was like, you were her own when everyone else abandoned you, and you repaid her by locking me away for 25 years. And it's like, that's like, it's not like a vulnerable moment, but it's just like, we finally see like, a layer is scraped off,
yeah.
from
So
Steve in
so
that moment.
basically, from what I gathered from that, is that when Steve raped her, he did get arrested and go to prison for 25 years.
Hmm.
And then I'm assuming he
Yep.
got out right before Bay the Beginning. And
Yep.
this is where now he wants to get back at her. So, you
Yeah.
know,
And then he's all like, you put my mom in her grave all because I wanted you. And, but he says, like, and he acknowledges that it's fucked up. And then he says, like, no one will love you the way that I do. And it's just like,
yeah,
oof, but it just adds like, because we've seen him in like desperate villain charming mode, but we've never really like kind of seen that real kind of sick
that
motivation that he has for
vulnerability.
going after Sarah until now. And it
Yeah,
just makes for incredible scenes. I mean, the two of them play off each other so well. I mean, the scenes were just outstanding. And then
yeah,
even when Sarah kind of switches up her attitude, realizing like, hey, to survive this, I'm gonna have to like pretend I'm charmed, pretend I'm, you know,
yeah.
it's like Sarah as a character is a good actress in that scene.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because she just completely like kind of switches on a dime. Her voice changes everything. She's just like, well, we had something special. Tell me how I forgot. And it's convincing as frick.
It
I'm
is.
like, it's like,
I
I mean,
almost thought it
kudos
was
to
a dream
MBE for
sequence.
always, but even so, it was just like, wow, Sarah herself is a good actress in that
I
scene.
almost thought it was a dream sequence, of him kind of playing in his mind what he wanted to say,
Yeah,
what he wanted to happen and her to say, and
right.
him to be vulnerable. So then she comes back with actually wanting him.
Yep.
Um,
Even the way like that, like she's like kind of like the way she's like looks at him in that moment versus when she's like yelling at him and calling him out. It's just oh, just a master class. The two of them, her and Matt Ashford. I mean, obviously they've like been playing scenes like that since the '80s, but
yeah.
the two of them together, that chemistry is just it's electric, and they're so good at
I
what they
will.
do.
I kind of feel bad for Mary Beth Evans in a certain way, because both of her characters have to deal with a Steve on the show. In one, she's married to him and he's a great guy. On the other, he's an asshole and she's still married to him. So it's just,
It's funny, and it always it strikes. It's Steve Jensen, Steve Johnson. Like
mhm,
there's definitely some, and I
that's right.
appreciate that. It's
Jensen
we've
and
got like those.
Johnson.
Yeah, we've got like the little like Easter eggs, the little name kind of similarities, things like that. But yeah, every time that like she's like yelling, it's like, oh, she's not talking about Patch. She's not
Right.
talking about like one of my favorite love stories on Daytime. Like we can pull back now, but it's almost hard to kind of separate it out because at this point it's like Jack, Kayla, Steve, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's like it, but kudos to the acting, because honestly, those scenes are incredible, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
like just reinforces, like, just daytime actors are like the hardest working actors in my
they
opinion.
really
I
are.
mean, they put their
I
heart and
mean,
their soul into it, and it's just so brilliant when you get to see scenes
yeah,
like that. And scenes
and
that are longer too. That's another reason why
oh
it's
yeah.
just fun watching this, because it's just like, you watch current, days. I'm not as sure about GH, but I know at least with days, I just feel like the scenes are so abbreviated now and so short, and you don't get to like live in those like moments that almost feel like you're watching like a play. And then
Well,
you see scenes like this where they get a chance to, and it's just it's
that's
so,
because
I
the
love seeing it.
audience's habits have changed so abruptly. They can't take in the longer scenes and the longer content.
Yeah,
That's why there's many. That's why that there's the growth of the shorts genre of reels
yeah,
and YouTube
yeah,
shorts and reels on Facebook and Meta and all that Instagram reels. You know, 90-second clips. That's what the attention span is of the audience now. So when you're
yeah.
going on, to watch Days or GH or Y&R is just boring all over the place. But so it's like you can only have really maybe a 2 minute, not even 2 minute scene where you're having a bit of dialogue, and then you got to switch to something else, and then you got
Yeah,
to switch to something else because the audience just cannot have that much. They can't do a 5 minute scene. They can't take in that much content anymore.
yeah. No, I think there's definitely a lot of truth to that, but I will say it's nice getting to just see them kind of play those beats though, and just be
Oh
able to
yeah,
just kind of live in that, and just it's just nice to see them having that opportunity versus everything just being so just like burp, 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 move right to the next to the next. And we say this practically every week, but it's just the episode is so jam packed. It's like we still, even when the scenes are longer, you still have the attention span to watch them because they're really well done.
because
They're
and
very
that's
well written,
that's what it is.
and
Yep.
it moves. The content just moves and it flows very well. It doesn't feel like there's any filler. You don't get like just random dialogue for the sake. It's like every beat counts, every moment. And it shows. The quality of it shows. So
Yeah, and here's the thing: is that the Bay is great for one reason, for many reasons, but because the content is so good, you don't know that you're watching, let's say, a 5 minute scene because
hmm
the dialogue is pointed. The
yep,
you're emotionally invested because
yes,
of just how everything is put together. The During like Days or GH or whatever, the only time you really have longer segments is when there's an umbrella event like a wedding or a
oh
funeral,
yeah,
when you have
yep,
multiple people come up to talk or whatever,
yes,
and that's when you have it because everybody's there and they're still switching different characters.
hmm
But with this scene with Steve and Sara and just them, the dialogue, Steve
yes,
getting so open and vulnerable, and just kind of us seeing as to what his thought processes are, as to
hmm
why he's acting the way he is,
yeah.
and
I mean,
and
it
Sara kind of
sums up
turning it
all of
around.
his, it sums up all of like his behavior, and it
Yes,
just really puts a cap on, like we've seen this guy in every stage of being just a run of the mill asshole, villain, charming, all of this stuff, but it's not like mustache twirling for the sake of it. You see
right.
that there is, and it's just that development, even though it wasn't even like touched on like that long. It wasn't like they lingered in it. He didn't have like a full
Mhm.
on monologue or anything, but we got the point and we understood at least a little bit more of why he is so hateful and spiteful and
Every
ready to destroy her, but also like you can tell that he still cares about her too. It's just it's
every
ugh,
good villain thinks they're right. Every
yeah,
good villain can justify what they're doing. And it goes back to wrestling too. It's the
mm,
same thing. If you're a good heel, you're going to be correct on multiple topics that are true. That's truth.
mm-hmm,
You're just interpreting them and acting on them differently than the audience wants you to act.
yeah,
And while you're feeling justified, you're still in the wrong because that's your character.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yep. And it just shows how well developed these characters are and how well thought out, their backstories, everything like that, because, it's a detail that we kind of knew, but not really. And now that it's touched on more, it just, it added so much to, what was already like a good set of scenes, obviously between the two of them. We could have just had it where he was just calling her Blondie and she was like, yelling at him, but then to
Hmm.
end it on just that note where she's just trying to like kind of meet him where he's at so that she's, full on survival mode. Just I'm going to say what I need to say and do what I have to do here to get out of this. Her like turning on
Hmm.
the vulnerability too.
Yeah,
Oh, just so well done, so good. And there was
absolutely.
still like the thing is, it's like that could have been like the entire episode, and it would have been. But there's still other stuff going on that was still equally
Yeah,
good. And it's just like, gosh,
no, you're absolutely right. We did see. So, kind of moving on from Sarah, we kind of talked that
yeah.
scene to
I think
death, but kind of moving on. We saw Colton and talking to his sister.
Yeah, another case
Um,
of a villain that we see a little bit more of. Now,
yes,
granted, I'm not gonna, I don't think that, Colton, I don't feel that sense of just kind of like, okay, I kind of get
no,
you now. But we do see another more facets, more sides to him, and obviously bringing in his sister, that really does help kind of flesh him out a little bit more. Not to
hmm,
say that he's redeemable, but he does have some sweet little scenes with his niece, who we come to
yeah,
meet in this episode.
yep. And just again, he's still on this whole cop killer thing,
Yeah,
against Lianna. And I did like how Lianna and Damien yeah, Lianna and Damien were walking by the beach, and they were trying
yes.
to figure out who might have said something.
Yeah, at least
And
she finally realized that he wasn't because, Damien obviously looked so caught off guard and like, sad puppy when he was getting
yep,
accused of being, and obviously though. And I like how they just kind of suss out, well, who else was around to hear? Oh, the waitress, that Patty. It's like they figured
yep.
it out right away. It wasn't like it was going to be a drawn out sort of thing, which I appreciated.
And then kind of cut to where Patty's talking to Colton, and she's like, I did what I could to help out,
But even
because
she's kind of feeling a little not remorseful, but just kind of being like, "Don't let this come back on me," you know,
right, yeah.
which
and
is
and I did kind of
understandable.
like,
But
and again, even though she's kind of wishy-washy, she's definitely not as likable as Mickey was,
oh,
because you
absolutely
can
not.
see that she's on a different side of many of the top
Yeah,
issues. But then
and it's one
her
of
with,
those situations too. It's like we don't really know her that well, but it feels like
right,
she's just kind of around to stir up trouble,
oh
and just
yeah,
kind of cause shit. She's not necessarily like, with Mickey, it's like, we saw like, her being the sweetheart, but we also saw like the troubled, dark roots of why, she had a lot going on. And with this, it's like, okay, yeah, we kind of see that you're just kind of a shit stirrer a little bit.
I'm kind of wondering, because she's the same sister that was in the picture with Mickey, that showed Sarah not being, or whoever
Right.
killed
She was
Red.
on the scene that day,
I'm kind of wondering
witness.
if she has a different viewpoint than Mickey does on that picture.
Yeah, that would be interesting to. I've kind of forgotten, her arc over the course of, what's going to be the remainder of the season. But if that comes back into play, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Something like that, just to kind of
Yeah,
flesh out that a little bit more, because that was such a pivotal thing to have happen. And then
right.
obviously, so. But in this case, she's just kind of. It's so funny. It's like on one hand, it's like when they're around that kid, they're
Yeah,
very sweet and they're very likable. But you get the kid out of the picture, and they both become kind of, her and Colton just kind of become like jerks. But
yeah,
around the kid, it's just like, oh, you're actually like that's so sweet. You're giving her the ice cream. Oh, Colton, you're
yeah,
being so nice. And then
yeah. The double Mickey.
Hannah Hannah leaves the scene, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, well, okay, now you guys are just being jerks again.
Yeah, I mean that's what it
And
is. Everybody wants to
yeah,
hide their villainy from the kids in their life.
yeah. Yeah, and then we also get, Andrea Dre, who, or Dre, I think is how she goes by, but Andrea when she's the newscaster. And
Yeah,
then I appreciated too, like her name's Andrea Collins, and then he's like, oh
yeah,
yeah, because you like the Collins, murder mysteries or whatever. I thought that was a cute touch, but yeah, we find out a little bit more about her. I mean, obviously we know that she's Colton's sister, but we learn a
yeah.
little bit more kind of about her situation. We find out who she was involved with.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
kind of, get that, bomb kind of dropped on us in a kind of a quick way too. Like they just kind of just, oh yeah, by the way, hey, they were together, and hey, there's a cute little kid running around with dark hair, so we
Yep.
wonder.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like Evan is kind of caught like a deer in the headlights when he sees
Oh
her
yeah.
with the
Yep.
kid, and and I don't even think he introduced Tamara as
No.
just like
Uh,
um,
they both kind of like go to the like they're almost neutral corners, kind of
yeah,
quickly. It's like, they just kind of, he takes Tamara off, they go to the other, but they're kind of like looking at each other. There's clearly there's a lot, you know, not being said but also said between the two of them. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that was one of those scenes that kind of lays the groundwork for other stuff coming up.
for sure, for sure.
I did like how she saw um, Colton's sister. What's her name again? Andrea,
Yes.
right? Um,
Yeah.
I like how she gets out of the car. She sees Damien and Lianna, and she rushes
Mhm.
up to them and says, when you're ready to give your side of the story, I
Right.
will help you. I believe
Yeah.
you.
I'm one of the good guys,
Yeah,
and yeah, no, I appreciated that moment too. You can tell that she's just trying to counterbalance what her, everything that Colton is trying to stir up, and just,
yeah,
because she flat out points out to him, like, you're going after a woman who just lost her mother, who
hmm,
was involved in what was an accident. And then
yeah,
when I love when Colton's just like, well, he's all blustery, and then she's like, well, do you have proof that she actually like was intending? And then
yeah.
that shuts him up, because it's
Right.
like, yeah, she's a journalist and she needs to see the proof. And it's
I
like,
mean,
you go, girl.
Colin is a mess all around. Like
Oh yeah,
he's the kind of people that give cops a bad name,
yeah. No,
because
he's just the
he,
standard, just using the badge to just kind of bully, and just
yeah,
not, he's not in it for the right reasons at all. And he's just, even like, even the woman that like, kind of informed him, when he has that scene with Patty, and he's just trying to be all like charming and smooth about it, but she's still like, I don't want this to come back on me, and I didn't realize that that's what you were going to do. Like
yeah,
even she kind of draws the line a little bit with him,
yeah,
or at least tries to.
exactly. So I mean, he's an all around scumbag. He's probably, obviously we know Steve is probably the main villain on the show. He's right
Yeah.
up there. Like
Oh
just
yeah.
by what
Yeah.
we've seen, he
Absolutely.
kind of stakes his claim on Tamara, like she's still his, even though she tries to get away from him.
Yep.
And and he made a comment about, oh, your beau is dating my sloppy seconds or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just overall, just a no good piece of garbage.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, he does mention Xander, and I just wanted to clarify that's the brother, right? That's the kid. So,
Yes,
okay. Yeah. I was
yeah,
like, wait a minute, who's Xander? It took me a second, and then I was just like, oh no, wait a minute, that's the little brother that we got introduced to a
yeah,
couple seasons. Okay. It took
yeah,
me out of it for a second because I didn't recognize the name, but then
yeah.
it cleared up.
Back,
And
I think when
speaking of,
Christopher Sean was still playing Colton,
I
that's when
think
we
so
got.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's when he made his little appearance on the beach or something like that.
yep,
So yeah, they're definitely fleshing out the Kurosaki, fam, and
yeah,
kind of exploring that, and I think, with Dre, it's almost like, she's kind of, and I'm not sure, maybe, but it's almost like she's kind of filling the Zoe void a little bit,
yeah,
because we have like the journalist sort of who's like kind of eager to help and has, just kind of that sweet side. It's like she's kind of like, stepping into like a Zoe sort of space
right. Is
a little
Zoe
bit.
still there? Did she leave for this season, or
I I want to say she's not gone, like, permanent, but I feel like, they just kind of, maybe this season she couldn't
they
have been
needed
as
to
many
change it up a little?
episodes.
Well, because at the last episode of season 4, she and Zoe were talking.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
they're obviously friends. They're obviously,
Yeah.
colleagues or somewhat. So
Right.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe Zoe's on assignment and this one's filling
Maybe.
in,
Yeah.
because
But regardless,
Zoe also
yeah,
isn't a TV reporter. Andrea is a
that's
TV
true.
reporter.
That's
So
true. Yeah.
it is a different media form. So maybe Zoe's just still around. She's
Yeah.
once we once we see Nathan come back, then Zoe will pick up again.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's interesting that they just kind of bring in someone who's kind of got like similar sort of, vibes, similarities to her. And yeah, they are acquaintances. They're the journalists. They're the good guys,
Yeah,
trying to, help people out and everything, which, we need because you've got crazy
Hmm.
villains in that town. But
Yes.
even with Tamara though, she kind of gets, her and Evan. It's kind of I liked their scenes too. Their scenes were kind of brief, but in the restaurant, they just I love how she's all or I can't believe like you knew the sister of the guy that I was dating, and then Evan's just like reminds her, I didn't know you dated him till yesterday. It just shows like
Yeah.
their relationship has not been in place that long. And he's
Right.
just still kind of like in like honey, like why are we talking about this? Why are we all stressed out now? We're back, we're fine, And it's just, but it's so funny because it's like the relationship is so short lived at this point,
Yeah,
and
because
yet
it's
so
like what's funny is the timing of the series is so crazy because on one aspect between seasons you could have a number of years pass or a number
mhm.
of months, whereas between season 4 and season 5 it's still one day. It's literally
Yeah,
one day.
right,
um because you're still on the same day from last episode of season 4 to season 5 episode 1. It's the same. It's like literally the same day or the
yeah.
next
No
day.
time has passed since
So which makes sense because I doubt Sarah would be missing for so many months without them finally finding her.
right.
Um, but
Even though I
I
will
it
say her hair looked a little different.
yeah,
Yeah, it's between her escaping with the boot, or
yeah,
leaving the one boot in and then cut to her in the woods. I think the woods grew her hair out a little bit and switched up her
yeah.
style because her, which kind of cracked me up. But it's just that's inevitable. That's what's going to happen when you've got like obviously like significant time passing before between
Oh yeah.
seasons, but you're trying to
Um,
recapture the
I
same.
I did want to comment, kind of going back to the Sarah storyline. Lex is the police commissioner. Why is he out there with Pete? Why is
I
there
don't
not another cop out there with
Why
him?
are isn't
And
there
Pete's
like
going with a
cops,
baseball bat.
dogs, all of that? It's like, yeah, yes, I agree. I mean, I get it. Like Pete would be like joining in the chorus and eager to help, but
Right.
why is he not there with like four other officers and like
Yep.
a dog to like sniff around and find stuff? Like it
I
doesn't
guarantee
make
if they
sense.
had a
You're just
dog, they would have found Sarah.
right. Oh my gosh, that dog would have been on it. That dog would have like sniffed her from like where she was like staggering across the way from
Yeah,
them. I mean,
exactly.
one of those that just kind of we've had that kind of happen with a lot of the outdoorsy sort of stuff that's been between that and the cars, the
Yes.
escapes.
You
It's a
have to
little rough.
suspend your disbelief.
You do, you do. I mean, they're just like they're wandering the woods. Just the two of them, though. It's like this isn't. It's like Lex. Come on, you have the entire police force backing you at this point to try and find, and yet all you have is Pete and a baseball bat, and you're gone.
Yeah. And then Pete picks up a tire iron, or a crowbar rather, to get into the
Right.
cabin. He's got a baseball bat and he picks up a crowbar. Like,
Like just interesting kind of some choices were made.
right. Yes, exactly. And don't get me wrong, as a wrestling fan, those are both great weapons in wrestling. But but it's like when you're out there trying, I mean, think about it. 95% Steve is armed and dangerous, so
Yeah.
I understand Lex, but Pete having a baseball bat and a crowbar, and he picks up the crowbar from the site and then leaves it there. Like,
Well, maybe they had to use it. He was going to use one to kill the rats. That was one detail that I didn't. When they get in the cabin and like the captions read like rats squeaking, and then you could hear the rats. That was another just like just too detailed and gross, and I couldn't. So maybe he's using like one weapon to like handle that situation or something.
could
I don't
be.
know.
Um, all right, and last but not least, we see Riley going to the cop to try to get him
Yeah,
to see Adam. Adam is in the hospital. He's got to go through surgery,
yeah,
and
because he's had the living hell beaten out of him. So
right,
yeah.
and Riley's trying to get in there. The cop's not letting him, but he's in surgery, so he's like, even if he was in surgery, I'm not letting you see him. Um,
Yep.
and then Lex comes back and says, and guess what? We found Tobin's office completely cleaned out. He's took some kind of a case in New York, and he's
And then we're
gone.
like, rap on Tobin. Okay. I guess like,
Yep.
we we couldn't get him back, so, conveniently he's a
And
yeah. I
I did like how how um how Pete questioned Riley and said, "Why'd you lie to me?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Because
Yeah.
I was trying to help Lianna. I wanted Tobin to, because Adam said he would tell Tobin to take
Right.
Liana's case, and I was trying to help. I didn't realize Adam was in all this."
And to be fair, I mean, she knew that it was like kind of a weird situation, but she didn't know all the details and stuff. You still though, you see Pete, you see both their sides.
Yeah.
It was a good, moment, good kind of art, because like Pete has every right to be upset, but
Hmm.
to be on her side too, she didn't know what Adam was all about and didn't know the scope of the situation when she agreed. And she obviously came clean and try is doing her best to try and. But those were some good scenes between the two of them. And he just kind of the little heartbreaking edge, like when she asked like, well, what if Adam doesn't make it? And he's just like, I don't know, I just praying my mom lives. And
Right.
then I don't know, the one line that kind of I think Lex says it to Pete. He's like when he tells everybody that Tobin left, he's like, "There's another little fool looking for you." And I'm like, who are we talking about here? I don't know what that line was. If it was like, Tobin was the little fool or what that was like referencing, but I was just confused. I was just like, I played it back. So I was just like, wait, did I miss something? I
Yeah.
don't know. It was just kind of it was just kind of an odd,
I
it was
must
just
have
kind of
missed
funny
that
hearing like
in the
the little
dialogue.
fool looking for you. I don't know. It was Tristan Rogers saying it, so of course I was paying
Uh,
attention, but I was just like, I don't know what
yeah.
that means, bud.
I don't either.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, just kind of interesting with that whole, and it's like, who knew, with Tobin though. I mean, that man, he's always going to be kind of a cipher. We're never really going to know what that dude's all about.
Yeah.
So
I think that's it. I think we kind of covered everything.
I think
Um,
so too. I was just going back through my notes, but I think we covered like I guess, just final thoughts, the goon, like, being complimentary of Sarah, even while he was kidnapping her, just kind of
yeah.
was, that actor was kind of funny in that, just being just all like, oh, she's feisty. Meow. Hey, pretty lady, stuff like that. It was just, you
And
know,
then just that comment that the dialogue between Steve and him, and just, have I told
yes.
you that I loved you? Eh,
I wonder, that
Uncomfortably.
it almost felt like it could have been like improvised or something.
It could have been
Which
ad
just,
libbed. Yeah.
yeah, which just, you gotta love it. But yeah, I do think we did cover. I think we covered everything. Yeah. And then that rat detail, eesh, that was just too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that cabin was gross. They did a really good
It
job of
was.
making that cabin look seedy. It's like, yeah, if I was, thirsty and about to collapse, even I wouldn't want to collapse there. I'd rather find a tree.
Right. All right. Well, we have covered season 5, episode 1. We'll be back next week with covering season 5, episode number 2. Um,
Yep.
and that's, we gave our final thoughts already. It's off to a great start for season number 5. Again, as
Definitely.
always, the Bay can be found on Peacock up until, I want to say, season 6. Tubi TV and Amazon Prime up to season 7, and Popstar has up to season 8 on demand, and season 9 is currently on the rotation in terms of daily episodes. Um, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I think we've
Um,
covered everything. And yeah, looking forward to digging into the rest of season 5 as we're,
yes,
making our way through.
absolutely. All right. Well, we're out of time. I think our diagnosis or analysis of the episode went longer than the actual episode, as it normally does. Um, but either way, Kim, where can everybody find you if they want to find you on social media?
I'm still active over on Twitter /X/Twix at Misfit at 86 is my handle, KP. So feel free to reach out to me there. Haven't been posting too much as of late. I don't know, but feel free to reach out to me there, and if we because that's I don't know haven for soap Twitter and for Bay discussion. So
Yeah. And as always, you can find me on Twix and Facebook at Vinnie Suds, or on Facebook. I mean, on Twix and Blue Sky at Suds Media. On both of those at Suds Media, and then follow the normal places. Go ahead and hit the like button on this video. Subscribe. Get notified. Help us get to our subscription goal. We need to get to at least 500 subscribers to start monetizing YouTube. So, share and like and get people to
Yep.
join. We've got a lot of programming on this network, whether it's soap opera based or wrestling based. Also, become a patron. Go to patreon.com. So that's Suds and Square Circle. And if you want to donate to help offset the cost for the Laura Wright Lifetime Achievement Championship belt, go ahead and buymeacoffee.com/Suds Media, and your name will go in the card that we give to her with the belt. So she'll see all the people that appreciate who she is. But anyways, for Kim, I'm Vinnie. We'll see you next week, Dockside at the Bay. Have a great
Take care,
week,
everybody.
everybody.